What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. We're talking about captaincy now ahead of FPL Double Game Week 24. Big decisions. Obviously, a lot of people looking at Man City. I've seen a few people going for Burnley defenders, especially Nick Pope. So we're going to talk about that as well as a single game week option, right? Is Bruno Fernandes a better option than the double game week players? We're going to discuss it in this video, get it out and live before the deadline. So if you enjoy it, give it a like. It really does help out the channel. Hit subscribe if you're new around here. Let's jump into it. Okay, let's start off with Man City first. The big team that most people are probably looking at, or at least on paper, the ones they're looking at. There's maybe some people put off by the fixtures. Spurs at home, Everton away. Doesn't look good on paper, but what do the numbers tell us? I know there's a lot of stats on screen. Obviously, the left stuff is to do with the teams that they're playing, Spurs and Everton, defensive stats, and the right are the attacking stats. Now, first thing before we look into any of that is obviously, will Man City players play in both games, right? And I can't sit here and tell you that any of them will. My kind of gut instinct is that Gundogan will continue to play, right? We saw in the FA Cup that he got brought off early. I think while De Bruyne is out, he is basically their De Bruyne right now, and I just don't see him missing out. Yes, De Bruyne does miss games from time to time, but he's also someone when fit that starts like 15 to 20 league games in a row. Maybe 20 is a bit high, but kind of 10 to 15 league games in a row. And I think Gundogan's at about 11 now. These are big games, right? Against Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, right? Yes, they're ahead in the league, but you win these two games, you kind of almost stamping your authority. And also, keeping on that momentum after the Liverpool game. Maybe subconsciously, because I'm a Gundogan owner, that's how I'm thinking. But I just don't see how he drops him right now. And sometimes Pep, although he rotates a lot, right? Pep roulette is a common phrase that we use. There's certain players where he just doesn't. Ederson, Diaz, De Bruyne when he's fit. And I think Gundogan is that player right now. I also, because of the magnitude of the games, also think that Sterling will probably play both of them. The next game after this is Arsenal in the league, and then they have got Champions League starting back up again. So will Sterling play all those games? It does seem a little bit unlikely, but maybe on the slight rung under De Bruyne, Sterling's probably like the next nailed on most of the time. Plus, he's playing really well right now, so it'd be hard for Pep to kind of just ignore him, right? So I do think they look good. I do think they're decent for two starts, those two players. I think Foden is trickier, right? He has proven his worth. Really good in the Liverpool game, for example, and has played a lot of minutes recently. But at the same time, even though he missed the FA Cup, sure, he might play against Spurs. Would I be confident of him then starting against Everton? Probably not. So for me, straight away, he's like an outside captaincy choice. And then defenders have obviously been popular for City. They've had some good double game weeks in the past that people have looked to captain them in. People have captained them in single game week fixtures as well. For me, I still don't think it's the worst time to do it. But obviously for Spurs, you've got Son and Kane, right? Kane's now back fit. He's looked really good actually since he's come back as well. Obviously, he was only out for a few games, but he has looked good. And obviously you got him and Son linking up. It's going to be difficult for Spurs, right? Man City are an exceptional defensive team, but they've got players that can do it. Everton's probably a little bit easier now because Calvert-Lewin's out, right? So captain and defender is not an awful decision. But again, will you get two games out of them? Diaz seems to be fine, so he's probably going to play. I don't see him missing either game. How much upside does he have for attacking threat? Cancelo and Stones, will they play two games, right? And with the other fullbacks fit, Zinchenko and Walker, there's a little bit of a worry, and I'm a Cancelo owner as well, of will he play twice? So there is massive upside if he does, but you are running that risk if you captain him that he doesn't, right? We all know that. So for me, Sterling and Gundogan are probably the standout captain options, with someone like Foden or Mahrez, punts after that, because you just don't know if they're going to start twice, right? I just think Sterling and Gundogan have got much more chance. And also the numbers are really good. Sterling's expected goal involvement when you take out penalties is better at the moment than Gundogan. 3.54 over 4 matches is really good. 10 shots in the box, 7 chances created. He can be a streaky player. He's on a hot streak right now. He's looking good. Like I said, I don't see Pep kind of taking him out or managing his minutes too much, but there is always a risk, right? And then you look at the defensive numbers, and they're not actually that good for either team, right? Spurs over the season are 1.21. That's okay. Right now, they're kind of chopping and changing their defence a bit, right? Dio's kind of lost his place. Sanchez has come in. Last 6, 1.36 has gone up. The expected goals conceded, it's gone up a little bit more for the last 4 games. It is worth saying, in last 4, Spurs have played Chelsea and Liverpool, so that won't have helped. The other 2 games were West Brom and Brighton. And before that, it was Sheffield United away and Fulham at home. So there's not really an excuse for the numbers to get worse for those games, but obviously for Chelsea and Liverpool, you can see why it probably did. So defensively, that's okay. It's not like elite levels like City or Liverpool or anyone like that. The season totals are okay. Last 6 and last 4, not good at all. And obviously, they just conceded 5 to Everton. I know that was over 120 minutes, but the defence just isn't doing it right there at the moment. The obvious worry is this is Jose Mourinho. What's he going to do against Man City? He's going to try and absolutely park the bus and not let them have any inch of space. So it depends whether he gets his wish. Can the players carry out how he wants to play the game? Can they stop Man City for a large portion? Because as soon as City score, the game becomes more open, right? So if they can get that early goal, as I always say, it's going to help them out. And Everton defence, again, just hasn't been good for most of the season. 1.39 over the season, 1.34 last 6, 1.48 expected goals conceded in the last 4 games is not great. So when you look at those numbers, even if you add up the season totals, which are a little bit better for both than the last 4, that's what, 6, something like that. Expected goals conceded on average for both teams. That's a big thing to bet against if you're not going to go for a Man City captain. So for me, they are the standouts this week if you think they start twice. I do think shots in the box by Gundogan hasn't taken that many, but he is getting into the right positions, and he's so close to goal as well. When he does get a shot, like, it's much easier to score than obviously someone that's shooting from outside the box a lot. His expected goal involvement and Sterling's is huge. For me, Sterling, I don't know if he's actually that far ahead of Gundogan, especially if Gundogan has penalties, but he is a big differential. So if you go for him, and he does hit big over Gundogan, it'll be a big rise in the ranks. Obviously, if Gundogan gets the same points, it makes no difference, or even if you had both, that would be better. But I do think Sterling's a nice differential this week, and the fixtures just wouldn't put me off. I don't think the numbers are there for either team, and this is Man City we're talking about, the best attacking side in the league. And I just don't see why there wouldn't be goals in these, right? Double game week, you have to back 2 fixtures. For me, they are the best. So we have to keep this unbiased, right? As much as I think Man City players are probably the best options this week, a lot of people are looking at Burnley players right now. Obviously, I've put shots and chances created up there for attacking threat, but it's not really a big concern when we're talking about these players. Obviously, it's the clean sheets that we want. Now, first of all, before we talk about logic, right, you should obviously go for the players that you think are going to score most points. That is probably the most basic thing about FPL. If you think Nick Pope is going to score more points than Raheem Sterling and Gundogan, you go for them, right? And I get the arguments that people are making. City are playing Spurs and Everton. They can be tough on their day. Really, we haven't seen that recently. But on their day, yes, they can be tough to face against. They both also have really good managers, Jose Mourinho and Carlo Ancelotti, right? And then you look at Burnley, you think, well, it's Palace and Fulham. That's 2 clean sheets. So therefore, Nick Pope's already on 12 points before we even think about bonus, before we even think about saves. But sometimes, like, logic goes out the window. Like, if I have to watch Nick Pope or Ben Mee, who I own, play twice, sitting there hoping they don't lose their clean sheet because of my captaincy, that's going to kill my weekend. I will say that is not a logical way to think about this decision at all. You could look at Nick Pope and say, well, 4.9 points per game is really high, right? Therefore, he is one of the best captain options this week. And if you look at the numbers, I've tweaked it slightly. So this isn't defensive numbers, this is attacking numbers. And expected goals for Crystal Palace over the season, 0.92. That is awful. They were an awful attack who don't have Zaha. And the numbers have actually come down over the last 6 and the last 4. They've played Leeds, Newcastle, Wolves, West Ham in the last 4. Fulham expected goals, 1.12. Not great at all. And that's even come down as well over the last 6 and the last 4. So they are playing 2 blunt attacks. I do think from the eye test, though, Fulham probably look a little bit better than their stats suggest. But Palace don't, right? They barely threatened Leeds at all. So I can see why people want to do it. 2 clean sheets. My thing is, I get the floor and the ceiling argument. So a lot of people will say, okay, Nick Pope's ceiling is possibly not as high as like a Sterling or Gundogan, but he is likely to get at least 1 clean sheet. So straight away, that's 6 points. Then 2 points for the second appearance, and then any bonus or save. So you're looking at 8 to 10 as a minimum, right, for Pope. I get that, but I kind of look at it as if, what would I do in a single game week? Would I captain a City player, or would I ever consider Nick Pope? I would never consider Nick Pope. He could be playing at home to West Brom, and I would not consider him for captain. What is the difference with a double game? Right, that's the way I'm approaching it. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong if you want to captain Nick Pope or Ben Mee or Tarkowski, but if you look at this points match, it's just not good enough for me. 4.3 for Ben Mee. Tarkowski 3.0, but he had to play a few games without Ben Mee, and once he came back into the side, they did a bit better defensively. But obviously, Nick Pope is the one. He can get the saves, and when they do keep clean sheets, he does get bonus. And people will show you, I'm sure if you're on Twitter, lots of stats that when Nick Pope has kept a clean sheet, he's averaged like 9 or 10 points this season, which is absolutely mad. So if you suspect 2 clean sheets, it could be a big haul for him. And I'm not trying to sit here trying to talk people out of it. But for me, no one would even consider Nick Pope if it wasn't for a double game week. And obviously you have to consider him, right? I would still put him ahead of Bruno Fernandes or pretty much any single game week player this week. But ahead of Man City, like in any other game week, you'd never even think about it. It's just different for a double. I get it. 2 really poor teams. You sat there waiting for a clean sheet. If it happens, you look like a genius, right? If Nick Pope owners come out of this with 12 to 15 points plus, then fair play to them, absolutely. But as soon as that clean sheet goes, if it goes, it's like if it'll feel like weekend over. And like when I do stuff on this channel, obviously I'm trying to get the most points. I'm trying to help people get the most points. But I want to talk about it as if I'm just any old FPL manager, which I am. I just happen to make videos. And I personally cannot bring myself to captain Nick Pope. If you go for it, fair play. I hope it works out genuinely. Because I've got Ben Mee, right? So I want him to keep clean sheets. It's just not for me. But the numbers look good. What I will say that's not on here is Burnley's defensive numbers, which we talked about before. They're not actually been that good this season, but they are facing 2 pretty blunt attacks. We know on their day, Burnley can defend really well. Nick Pope's a great goalkeeper. Tarkowski and Mee is a decent double up. If you really don't want to go for City, this is where I would be looking. Even ahead of Bruno Fernandes, in my opinion. But ahead of Man City, I just don't like it. I'm actually really liking this week because it is quite divisive in terms of who people want to captain. You've got the diehard, it has to be Man City. You've got the, actually, Nick Pope and co deserve a chance. They've also got a double game week. And then you've got the, Bruno Fernandes got the best game he's going to have all season. He is great. Therefore, he should be captain, right, in this game against West Brom. So as you can see on the screen, as every time I talk about a player playing against West Brom, they are the worst defence in the league, right? 1.9 expected goals conceded over the season. That has got slightly better over the last 6, last 4. I looked at who they played. Last 4, it was Spurs, Sheffield United, Fulham, and Man City. Surprisingly, the last 4... with Man City game at 5-0, brings their average expected goals down over the season. And if you add in the last 6, it's West Ham and Wolves away. West Ham and Wolves as well, right? But we know it's a poor defence, right? Teams can score plenty of goals past them. Spurs really should have scored more than 2. I can't remember what the expected goals was from that game. It probably wasn't any more than 3. But in terms of the chances that Kane got on another day, you can put them away. So I see why people want to go for Bruno Fernandes, right? And let's just quickly talk about the other players. Martial, I just don't know if you can guarantee he's going to start. I think Cavani will start this game. I like him as a differential. But if we're being realistic, people are looking at Bruno Fernandes for this game, right? Maybe Rashford, maybe Cavani, but really it's Bruno Fernandes. And I think the way I look at it is you're betting on the higher probability of points, right? I think once you get away from the thinking of this could happen, he could do this, he could get a haul. If he got 17 points, would that be a shock? Of course not. But if Sterling and Gundogan got 17 points in the double game, that would be even less of a shock, right? Because they got 2 games to do it. And this is the way I would look at it. And I know it feels like I'm just trying to push people towards Man City. I guess, as always, I'm just giving my opinion, and that's what it is, right? If Bruno Fernandes got 1 goal, 1 assist, clean sheet, 3 bonus points, that would be, I think it's 14 points, right? So 2 appearance points, 5 for the goal is 7. 10 for the assist, 11 for the clean sheet, and then 14 for the 3 bonus points. Of course, he could get more attacking returns, but let's say he gets 2, right? 2 returns, however many Man United beat West Brom by. That's 14 points. If Gundogan or Sterling get 1 assist in one of the games, that's 5. Let's even forget about getting clean sheets. In the other game, they just get appearance points. That's 7. So 1 assist gets them to 7. That's already half of Bruno's score. And that's before any bonus, before any other returns, right? Yes, Bruno Fernandes could definitely get a haul, but on average, I reckon if you play this game week over and over 100 times, there's no way that Bruno Fernandes comes out with more points than the other 2 more often. And that's how I would see it. It's just betting on probability of points. Will Fernandes get something from this game? Almost certainly. Is Bruno Fernandes the best single game week captain this week? Yes, but there are double game weeks. There are double the opportunities for points. And you shouldn't forget about appearance points, right? Like, let's say you think City are going to get 2 clean sheets, and suddenly that's 2 extra points for Sterling and Gundogan. So suddenly that 1 assist has turned into, what is it, like 6 points in 1 game. and 3 in the other. That's 9 points from just 1 assist over 2 games. And that's not even counting the fact that they can definitely score more than that. And also, that's also taking into account that Bruno definitely gets 2 returns. What if he only gets 1, like against Everton? He's down on 7 points. The City boys can easily beat that. Nick Pope can easily beat that. So I don't think Fernandes is a bad option. I just don't think he's the best option this week. Simple as that. If you want to go for it, obviously, it's your team. I always wish people would just do what they think, right? I like to give my opinion, but you're fully there or fully in your rights to disagree with it, right? That's the whole point of this kind of content process. I put a video out, I give my opinion, try and guide you for, I don't know, like fixture rearrangements or whatever, but ultimately it's your decision. And yeah, if you want to go for Fernandes, absolutely do it. It is the worst defence. Man United better away, fine. You can talk about that. I don't really pay too much attention to that. And Bruno Fernandes is definitely the best player. But I just think people are assuming that Fernandes will haul. He will get 15 plus points. And then they're treating Man City, the best attack in the side, as if they might not even get 10. I think the other way is the right way to look at it. It's more likely that they get more than 10 and that Fernandes gets less. So that's how I'm looking at it. Let me know what you think below if I've got that completely wrong. But I would probably captain Ben Mee, who I have in my side, before I captain Fernandes. I'm just going to leave it at that. Right, now everybody hates me after talking about Bruno Fernandes. Let's go on to some other games. So, first of all, I've obviously not talked about the other 2 teams that are doubling, mostly because I just feel like no one's really looking there for captaincy anymore. Calvert-Lewin is not going to play against Fulham. He probably will be back for Man City, but who wants a player against Man City as a captain like Calvert-Lewin, right? No one's going for it. So I just think Luca Dean, I wouldn't trust Everton's defence, really. And without Calvert-Lewin there, who's their focal point? Josh King could do a job, but I don't know. I mean, Josh King's been okay in the Premier League before. We're talking years ago, right? I would say he's in the Championship recently for a reason. A lot of players have come up and done well from the Championship this year. Bamford, obviously, Ollie Watkins in particular. Even Morpé's done okay at Brighton. And it's nothing to say that Josh King can't hit the ground running, but it's against Man City and Fulham, right? I don't think anyone's going there. No one owns him either, right? So I don't even know why I'm talking about it. Fulham is the other one. Everton away, Burnley away. I don't think that's too bad from a defensive point of view, like I spoke about earlier in the week. But for me, it's just not an attacking option. There's no way people are going to captain Fulham players. And then for single game, it's kind of the same. Like Leicester and Liverpool have got a tough game against each other. Villa against Brighton. Look, I've got Grealish. I love Villa, but Brighton have made things tough for people or for teams so far recently. Arsenal Leeds could be open, depending on how Arsenal's set up, but Leeds will definitely go for it. But realistically, right, we're just not looking at any other players, right? For me, you have to go Man City, Burnley, double game weekers, or you go for Bruno Fernandes. I would probably go for Bruno Fernandes ahead of most Fulham players, I think. Everton, maybe you can make a case for Richarlison, James Rodriguez, and Luca Dean if they can smash Fulham, because I do think it'll be low scoring against City. So you're relying a lot on one game. And at that point, I would possibly just go for Fernandes ahead of them. But in terms of Man City and Burnley, for me, they are ahead. As it stands right now, I'm on Gundogan. I would consider, if I had Sterling, I would definitely consider him as a differential. I don't feel like you're going to get punished massively by going for Sterling over Gundogan. If you do, that absolutely sucks. But I think it's possibly worth the risk because the upside's so huge. You're not going so different. It's a crazy idea. You're captaining a Man City player in a double game week, right? You can't really go wrong with that. So if you've got Sterling, really nice differential. But also, I don't think you need to rip your team apart if you've got Gundogan. He looks great. And Nick Pope, you know what? He's not the worst option. There we go. That is it for this one. Please let me know down below who you are captain or who you think the best captain is. I think there's going to be a lot of opinions on this one, and I do welcome them in the comment section. If you've enjoyed it, do give it a like and hit subscribe if you're new around here. I'll be back tomorrow with a deadline stream. I put out a wildcard video earlier. I've done my team selection already, so make sure you check that out. As soon as I've made my transfers, I'll put them up on Patreon. There's also Q&A for Patreon as well that went up today. So if you've not checked that out, just click that link in the description below and it'll take you straight through. Everybody that signs up goes up on the Legends wall, so you get Slack access, WhatsApp access, depending on what tier you sign up for. So make sure you do check it out if you haven't already. It really does help support me and the channel even further. And a big shout out to Joe B, who has signed up since I did the last video. I will leave it there. Thanks for watching in what has been a manic day, a manic week. I hope you've enjoyed all the content as normal. Back tomorrow for a deadline stream, and obviously all next week for content throughout the week as we go up to the next double game week. I'm sure the captaincy will be a little bit easier next week, but we'll see which single game week players people want to captain instead of Leeds, right? We'll talk about that next week. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you soon.